Good evening, everybody. This is Stefan Metro with Nathaniel C. Schooler and Jason Canigan, live from Facebook. And today we're going to do all together a free webinar for personal branding. So may I introduce you to Jason Canigan? Hi, Jason. How are you doing this morning?
Thanks a lot, Stefan. Appreciate it. Well, let's get right to the star of the show here. Nathaniel Schooler is IBM futurist I've been following for a long time, and I'm very glad to have the chance for us to chat with him again. Nathaniel, we're going to talk today about personal branding, and I understand you have a scary story about personal branding in your own world and your own experience that you'd like to share that will probably really blow the audience away.
So well, some of them might have read it on my blog actually, and I've got a picture somewhere or other, I think, in the deck that Stefan is gonna feed in. So really, it's actually about personal branding and how everybody has a personal brand. We all have a personal brand, whether we like it or not, and it's actually in most part our choice actually as to how we are portrayed, and whether we are public in our personal branding and we talk to the world and people listen and we share who we are is our decision on most part. Obviously, even if you're famous, you still have a choice as to how much information you share with the world. And this picture that I took of myself was really, really scary. Actually, I crossed. So I'm going to hopefully swap out the slide, and you can see the picture. It's basically when I crossed over the border. Hopefully, the picture will pop up any minute. Here we go. So you can see that's me there, and actually I might look like I was fine, and I looked vaguely okay, but inside I was absolutely petrified. And the reason is that I was at the border, and I wrote a blog about this, and I was crossing over the border in Latin America, and a lot of drugs go through that area. There are a lot of gangsters, there are a lot of guns, and that gentleman there with the yellow T-shirt on, he's standing there. He's actually the boat captain. But not only that, he had those black dots you can see on his shirt are actually pictures of guns. Right? And he's a big guy, and he's got a scar right on his face right here. And literally, I've arrived at the passport office, which is probably a similar size to my office. And there are 6 desks in there with this gentleman sitting at the front desk. And he doesn't work for the government. He's just grinning. Yeah. So, fortunately, I by this point, I've been living in Spain for quite a while, and I spoke a bit of Spanish. So these guys were quite nice to me, obviously, because I didn't have an American passport. I do have one, but I was on my British passport, and they were very, very nice to me, obviously, after I paid my $30. But this guy here, he had a personal brand. Yeah. He might have been a gangster, but he definitely had a personal brand, yeah, and it was evident, right? Because everybody, when he walked around, everybody was scared of him. I don't know what he'd done, I don't know what he was involved with, but everyone in the area, all these guys who were putting baggage on the boat, they were scared of him. There was, there were quite a few other people around, and there was a gentleman who I think was his father, and he showed up, and then a general from the army showed up, and the older gentleman spoke to the general. The general said something like "papeles, por favor," which is like, "Give me the paperwork." And so he opened the book up, and this booklet, and the general had a look at this booklet and checked all the nationalities and the names of the people. He kind of grinned rather sort of knowingly that he was going to get a big wad of cash for leaving the guy alone. And then the soldier with him with this gun, which was just ridiculous. It was huge. It had some sort of a rocket launcher on it, I think, as well. I've never seen a gun that big. You know, it was nuts. And so so basically these guys shook hands, and then he waved goodbye to his son or his employee or whatever, and then we crossed over the border and we've got to the other side. I'm not going to say where it is because I've got plans to go back there. It's a fantastic place. And literally I'm standing by the glass customs booth where you have to check your passport and they let you into the country, and then you go through customs. And this big man with the T-shirt, he just waltzes straight through there. They knew who he was. He said 3 words. They were absolutely petrified of him. Yeah. And it really made me think, because I've been studying personal branding now for sort of 5 years and worked with some of the best people in the world. And it was terrifying for these people, because obviously I don't know what this guy had done, but he had obviously projected this air of danger around him and fear and everything else. And it is possible to project whatever image you decide you want. You can design your personal brand to be friendly or unfriendly, to be authentic or non-authentic, you know. And I fit with, much like you and Stefan and everyone I'm associated with, we are authentic. And if anybody disagrees with that, then I'll be happy to have a conversation with them. So onto the next slide. I think I literally just created these slides this morning, and it was quite funny. What made me laugh, is that actually I went on to Shutterstock to grab a photo, because you said to me, grab a picture of a magnet, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a great idea. So I went on to Shutterstock and I literally looked at about 10 or 15 pages of magnets, right? Wow. Some of them have a magnet sucking a load of people in towards the magnet backwards, which I think is absolutely disgusting. It's not how personal branding works. It's not how marketing should work. People are attracted to you based upon what you say and what they say, right? So I personally believe that there are so many people out there in the world. There are masses of opportunities, and a personal brand, if it is authentic, it aligns people with their ideal client, right? And I just thought, I'm not going to have a picture of a woman attracting money or a man attracting money, but I thought this was quite representative, because actually when you get your personal brand right, it is so much fun, and you do feel like these people. That is how it feels. I'm not saying money is the most important thing. Some people more, fame is more important, recognition is more important in their careers, but the most important nuts and bolts are covered in my book. And actually it's a time-honored process that I follow. The gentleman who actually was my mentor, he taught me this process, and actually the most important thing is, firstly, explain what you do in words that are really, really simple. And then you also explain what gives you authority and credibility, and you explain why you're different and or better than anyone else. So I think it's a lot of fun doing the personal branding. It's not easy, but it's pointless putting yourself out there and getting loads and loads of followers and loads of Facebook friends if you don't understand the wording you should be using, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
So onto the next slide. I think I've got something quite interesting here. So So this here, right, is on the left here. That is actually my grandfather's stone on his grave. He died while I was about 3. I was about 3 years old. Yeah. I have vague recollection of him when I was sort of 2.5. And actually he was remembered for being charitable. So these are the words that people put on his stone: charitable, devout, energetic, civic leader. And that's what he was actually recognized for, because he was a philanthropist. He ran a company in New York with my dad when my dad was young, and he helped a lot of people throughout his life, and that's how he was remembered by people. And so the most important thing really is saying, well, how do you want to be remembered? And then actually work towards it, you know, and it's about designing what you want to be and how you want to be remembered. Yeah. And all these people talk about personal branding, but actually when it comes to it, we're all going to die, right? And you know, that's it at the end of the day. What do you want to leave behind? Do you want to help people? You know? So onto the next one. I've got just really quickly. Hello, everybody. Really quickly, I'll jump onto the next one. Hi, Doyle. How you doing? So onto the next one here. So this is a really brief brand statement that I've got on this slide. Hopefully it may show up in a second. I can't actually see it, so I don't quite know. It may not work. We're using this new tech today, so hopefully Stefan might be able to just click it, and it might. Here we go. Yeah, there's a few things to click on there. So it's my formatting, I'm afraid, because I uploaded it into Google Docs. So it may be something to do with me. But would you mind just clicking another couple of times, please, Stefan? Appreciate that. So these are just some words that are private to me that I want to be thought. When people think about me, these are the words that I want people to think. So connected, approachable, informed, trusted, insightful, and focused. And these words give me a direction with my career and my personal brand. I don't shout about these words. They're just words that I particularly actually use, and they can be changed. If you decide you want to change and project a different image that is more suited to the time of life that you're in or the new job you're in, then you can do that. You know, so it really is something that you can design. Would you mind just clicking again, please, Stefan? Just click a couple of times. There we go. So, you know, I worked with IBM, with Microsoft. I've been doing some podcasting, and I build brands for career and business success. And I do attempt to avoid techno speak or meaningless jargon. Sometimes that is difficult working with techies, but I tend to put my hand up like this. And hopefully sometimes that generally sort of works before people glaze over, you know. But building a personal brand is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And, you know, I've been watching what you've been doing over the years, and you've been doing a lot of video over the years, and you've built a strong personal brand. People listen to you, and you are authentic, Jason.
Well, thank you.
Pleasure. So, Stefan, would you mind just going to the next one, please? Yeah, and you need to basically just build a plan. Build a plan. Come up with some ideas. You can do it yourself. You can get a book. You can get someone to help you. There's all sorts of options for building a personal brand. But the most important thing is stick to being authentic. I think I might have one more slide. I'm not quite sure, actually. I was in a bit of a rush sending these over. Do you mind just dropping another one through? I think this may be the last one, but we will see. And then we can grab some questions. Yeah, that was the last one. So I think we may have some questions, hopefully. If not, I'm sure you guys will come up with some.
Sure. I mean, anybody who's on the Facebook Live, drop your question into the chat and we'll see it. and Stefan will read them out so that we can respond. So,
Yeah,
Nathaniel, thanks for that great story.
I was having one question
Okay.
on, but not on the live show. Actually, people were sending me that question because I did a little prep work here for that free webinar. People are asking the following thing. Because we live in different countries, we have different marketing cultures. Some things are good to do in personal branding, and in some other cultures, you don't speak about who you are, what you do, you're staying, in the shadow, right? So how do you address that? Because even if your culture do not practice that personal branding thing, how can you be representing yourself, but with
Different words.
cultural adaptation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in terms of doing that, it's obviously going to be different in different cultures, and for example, in England, people don't like to show off. It's not generally part of our culture. So for me, building my personal brand has been very difficult because actually it's against my culture. Fortunately, my dad is American, so that has helped me quite a lot, to get my head around it. And actually, you're in America, right? But you're Canadian, Jason. So it's
right.
different. It's different for you as well, right?
Right. Yeah. We don't want to be too forceful in how we present ourselves. However, when you're running a business, you have to express yourself in some fashion. Now, I want to go back to that great photo that you had there of yourself and over the shoulder of that, because there's some things that really stood out there. First of all, is the straight line of the mouth, right? You were like, I'm not having a great time here, but this moment needs to be recorded, right? Because here's such a great example. Here is such a great example of that guy in the yellow shirt who needs to stay under the radar for the most part, right? Criminals generally do not want to broadcast that they exist, and yet he is still, through either deliberate design or just the circumstances of his life, exuding that sense of menace that you were talking about, right? And that clearly affected everyone in the local area around him. So whether you're planning and designing your personal brand deliberately, which I think everybody should, or whether you're just kind of letting it happen, it is happening. It's like that old saying, you may not be interested in strategy, but strategy is interested in you, right?
Yeah.
So tell us more, I guess, a little bit about, you don't have to scream at the top of your lungs who you are and what you do. You can do it in a more subtle way, but I believe, and you tell me whether I'm right or wrong on this because you're the branding expert, Nathaniel, you can still choose. I mean, you have a lot of soft, friendly words in those private words that you've chosen, right? That really stood out to me. I was looking at them and going, do I match up with some of those? Like, a few, but there were some that they're not my private words, right? And so you can still be calmer, quieter, and still have that personal brand. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you picked those words.
Yeah, and before I have one question on Facebook from Australia, Toy Puller. He would like to know, how do you translate authentic into personal branding? How to use and practice authenticity in personal branding? Any exercise, any books, any recommendations?
Well, it's quite a good question. You just have to be really good at what you do. And that is the same with the cultural differences, You can, as long as you're really good at what you do. If you write a book, and it's really good, and people say to you, wow, that book is really good, and it made me call you so that you helped me, right? Or I followed the instructions and did it myself, then that is authenticity, part of it. But authenticity, you don't have to be authentic, but if you're not authentic, it doesn't work properly, and then you become fake, which is still possible. It's still possible to do, People do it all the time, you know. So yeah, it's a very tactile question, you know. But I think you are who you are, right? And you can attempt to be someone different, but the real people who know who you are just not going to buy you.
Mm.
You know,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
I could think back 20 years ago, I went to the Pacific Coliseum, which is a great arena back in Vancouver, where I'm from. And I went with a friend because the Lipizzaner stallions were coming to town. And it was a
Right.
horse show. The Lipizaners are these cool horses, basically, and they do tricks. And I got to talk to the presenter a little bit afterwards, and I asked him, how do you guys choose what tricks to teach the horses? And he said, well, we don't really do that. The horses are already doing something. Maybe they rear up on their hind legs or something like that, or they jump. And we just help them extenuate that or expand upon that, right? And I think that might be a great start. And anybody who's maybe confused about who am I right now and who do I want to be, it's also authentic to take that into your heart and say, yes, I am confused. Right now, I am figuring myself out. That's authentic, and show that to the world. People will love that. People love vulnerability, right? We talk about
very
this.
much so.
So there is nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I'm figuring stuff out right now." Here are a few of those Lipizzaner stallion moments, basically, I guess, of things where I am authentic, and I want to maybe look into that more, expand upon that. But knowing yourself is clearly a power base here, I guess, for like if you think of a battery or something like that, powering this thing. You can use it for the dark side if you want, but it sure is a lot more fun to be yourself. Yeah,
for sure. And you know, I mean, I think it's a lot of it is just if you're doing a lot of different things. I work with a lot of people who are doing a lot of different things, a lot of entrepreneurial people who may be at work and maybe launching another business, or they might be branching out into new areas within their current career. And actually, those are the people that get the most benefit from it. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Like getting to the bottom of the story, like, you know, like, for example, like Stephen Monaco, one of my clients, he used to work with this amazing gentleman at Warner Brothers, and he didn't even talk about that in his personal branding, you know. And people, it's a bit like running a business. If you're working on the inside of the business, you can't work on the outside at the same time, and that's a lot to do with it. Sometimes people need someone else to talk about it with you.
And I think it's much like being a lion. When I say lion, I'm not joking for LinkedIn open networker. I mean the real animal, the king of the animal in Africa, right? The lion is a lion. He doesn't have to pitch that he is a lion, right? He's just himself. And I relate to Stephen Monaco as a leader of opinion because he's so natural and humble. He's just a lion, right? He's just doing things. He's a forward thinker. He's working, I think, on some new disruptive technology with a group of co-authors, but we will have the opportunity to talk about that in digital ecosystem and disruptive MarTech soon. And this is why, I think personal branding relates to anybody because you know who you are, and it's an exercise to drop it on paper and then transform that into digital. So for the exercise, I have the opportunity live from Livingston, New Jersey, to have with us Robert Eastern. That's gonna be, interacting with us just right now to ask his question about personal branding. Because I think Jason Canigan here wanted to have. Will work questions, not stage, right? This is what it's all about.
Of course.
So we have people online. And at some point, I think also we will touch base with the topics about what kind of tool can I use to practice an exercise, more personal branding. But we will do that at the end of the show, right? So I will leave my seat to Robert Easton from Livingston.
Hello, gentlemen.
Ah, he's here.
Oh yeah, Nathaniel.
Hey, how you doing?
Nathaniel, you look like you're in a room that the CIA is like doing something to, with the light behind you and it's dark on your face. And I'm like, where's the Jason? Are you interrogating him?
Only gently.
This is where I take the people. Yeah, you don't want to know what goes on here, man.
How you doing, Nathaniel?
Very good, very good. Just really excited. 2018 is really shaping up. A lot of people are interested in working with me, and all this new technology coming along is so exciting. It's just, I feel like a child in a sweetie shop, really, if I'm honest.
And I literally, Stefan, he messaged me saying, "Hey, get over here and join us." And I just finished my Facebook Live that I had planned for 10 a.m. my time this morning. And it was all because of what happened last night with Facebook. So
of course, yeah.
I was up half the night studying everything, and I came up with my strategies on how to work with it, because it's going to change the way we do things.
Of course. Well, they always do, don't they? But what we're talking. I'm trying to move on because we're not here for too long. I'm trying to move on our conversation to kind of how personal branding affects selling. Yeah. And it's not rocket science, right? But it's no different to you landing on a website and it not speaking the language that you're gonna take action and buy it. I mean, there's no difference as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think sales. When the problem with business is that when they think about selling and branding, is that they're so focused on the sale that they're not connecting with the people.
Yeah.
And that's why personal branding, as the term as we say it now, is so important, because it's all about connecting and building relationships. Listen, you may not need my product or service right now, but 6 months from now, you might turn around and go, you know something?
Yeah.
I need to call Nathaniel. And because you had that personal connection and you check in with them time to time and you do things with them, they come back to you. And that's what to me personal branding is, because it's connecting and building those relationships.
Very much, very much. And there are only 3 reasons people don't buy, right?
They don't like
product's not right.
Right.
Product's not right. Timing isn't right. And what was the other one? Product, timing, and the price. There's only 3 reasons. So
I would say they don't like you, they don't trust you, they don't know you.
Yeah, well, you could say that, but then that goes down to the product, right? Then the product isn't right, is it? I've been studying this guy called Jay Abraham over the years, and he's one of my favorite marketing people. And when he said that, I was like, actually, I think he might be right. Always doing Facebook Lives, Robert.
Oh, I'm a big video live person. I got onto live streaming, as we call it now.
Who am I talking
when Periscope started. That was the big push.
Everybody
them get to know who you are. You're going to find some connection, whether it's you both have kids or you live in the same area or you both like a certain sport. I've had 3 careers in my life. My first career, I was a headhunter. In New York City, I used to place people in permanent jobs. I used to go meet all these human resource people. I'd go to their office. Why are they going to give me the job orders to fill? Because there's hundreds of headhunters out there. Well, I got to know them. And this was the old days. Exactly. You'll remember this. The index card.
I remember.
The index
I remember.
card. You kept your records.
The Rolodex.
Yeah. So what I used to do was I used to go in their office and I'd talk to them, but I'd also look around their whole entire room. And I see pictures of them skiing, or I see the family, and I'd ask questions. And so what I would do is, and this is the same thing we needed to be doing on personal sales in person or on social media, on live stream or whatever, I'd ask questions to get to know people. Oh, I see you're a skier. Where do you go? So now when I see an article about skiing, I used to send it to them.
Yeah,
and what does it do? It builds a better connection. So I think Doyle.
Exactly.
Hey, Doyle.
Hey, Doyle.
Hey, Robert.
Have you got anything to add?
Well, I kind of missed.
Yeah,
I missed most of the questions because the feed went in and out there for a while. So, and I had to go do some other things too. But I mean, in terms of questions,
got 10 minutes, man. So
yeah, that's cool. No, I'll happy to ask some questions. Cool. I guess taking a look at personal branding, how effective do you think it is at the end of the day? Like is it going to help your business 100% or 10% or somewhere in between?
Well, it just depends on what your business is. But according to entrepreneur.com, they actually found that I think there was something like 24 times the amount of sharing from a personal account versus a business account. So yes, it is going to help the business. It makes a massive difference for social selling, and but it needs to be done right, because it can be done wrong. I mean, the rubbish messages I get on social media drive me freaking crazy. We all get them from these people that just send us buy this, buy that, or they send this massive long message as soon as you meet them. Yeah. I mean, I do it occasionally, but I only do it really just to test and see what works. Yeah. And get rid of people that don't know me, Yeah,
exactly. I think it's really important to kind of step out from behind the brand. And personally, I've seen that a lot as sort of a trend, as you've obviously noticed. Nathan and Jason as well, like who is like some of the big businesses that we're dealing with today, like who knows the CEO? I'm not talking personally, but who knows the CEO of Tesla, right? Like most people could name him, whereas who knows the CEO of Porsche or Ferrari or Ford? I don't know, and it's because he's sort of built a personal brand around his energy, his excitement, and what he does. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree completely.
Thanks for being here, Doyle. You've got a great radio type voice. I'd like to hear more of it. I appreciate that a lot. Look, your personal brand is always on, right? Personal branding is always on. And I see we have a question there. Does personal branding apply to NGOs? Absolutely. Yes, I have worked with so many nonprofits, especially back in North Vancouver, where I'm from. I ran the committee that gave out all the grants for 6 years. So your brand is already out there. Even if you're a frontline salesperson, if somebody what I do is I run high ticket sales teams. That's what we do at the Closing Engine, is we sell for high ticket coaches and trainers and that. And we usually have to de-celebritize the funnel from whoever the coach or trainer is and celebritize up our salesperson a bit. And that's usually done with a video on that. But before they officially meet you, imagine if your salesperson has the reputation of being a killer or a shark. right?
Yeah,
Before they even meet you, right? It's like ick.
It
So
can really mess things up, can't it?
yeah.
Really
So
But that's the first thing that they do when you have a sales meeting. They'll they'll probably Google you potentially. I mean, I do that. You Google the person, you check them out on LinkedIn, and it doesn't matter what level within the company they are. They don't have to be the executive level, the C level. They can be the salespeople. They can be the marketing people. I think personal branding is like, it's going everywhere, and everybody needs to understand that you have to kind of get on the bandwagon, so to speak, and build a strong foundation for your personal brand. Whether you are an NGO,
completely.
whether you are a for-profit or whatever, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, your job as the business is to provide value, right? And how do you do that? With you, of course.
And it's about connecting with other cool people. Maybe you do business, maybe you don't. But if you connect with other cool people, just going back to that social planning advisory committee experience, I would bring people together who would all be fighting for the same slices of that Grant pie. And we had, and they'd be fighting over it instead of working together. And I hooked up, for example, we had a chef training program to take people who hadn't done very well in life and were having maybe missing teeth or something like that, and giving them cooking skills so that they could go get a good job.
Sounds like my first date.
We had a chef trainer through the local college. The Salvation Army ran the thing and got the food for them to kind of practice on. And I found that the Kiwanis Towers, which is a huge old folks home, basically, had a commercial kitchen rotting away in their basement that nobody was using. It's like, click. And nobody, these guys had been to the same meetings and talked to each other for years, but nobody had made that connection yet. And I know I sound a bit hysterical about that, but stuff like that is available all the time. If you just get to know people and not rush to that sale, like Benjamin was talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem.
Robert, excuse me.
Right. Yeah, people definitely rush.
You kind of have to step out from the brand as well, I think, is important in today's day and age, because they can find you anywhere. People don't want to deal with the logo anymore. They want to deal with the person behind the logo. And again, I don't think it matters what level you're at. You kind of need to represent the company for the value that you provide. So
So Jason, do you think that salespeople can really use social selling to their advantage, or do you think that people should use the telephone still?
Wow. Well, to say, should we kick aside all new technology? That would be crazy. That's crazy talk. Let's not do that. No. And I think our friend Stefan here will have much to say about social selling and how it can be used in personal branding, because it's all about the warm-up. I mean, before any of the stuff came along that we can use today that Stefan knows how to hook people up with, for example. I don't pretend to know enough about it at all, except how to use it. But on the technical side, before any of that stuff, I had free Kindle reports, video series, stuff people could opt into and get free training on that. Before they ever talked to me personally, they were warmed up on me. They usually people love it in video when I'm talking to them, but before they ever met me, they knew me. They felt they knew me. And I see this. We've got a great sales trainer who we're associated with, who runs a vacuum cleaner store in Ohio, and he produces these videos, and people come into his store all the time and say, like, they act like they know him, and he's like, "Huh? Who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, God, we love you."
Yeah, has that happened to you before, Jason?
Well, there are people who come to work with me, and because of the stuff that they have gone through to get to me, right? The material that they've had to consume, they're convinced of my value. They know I can help them, and they know not just why should I do this now, but why should Jason be helping them, right? Yeah. And so that's a tremendous advantage. That is just a huge advantage. That a salesperson.
They listen. They listen.
They
exactly. Listen to you. I had a lady. I spoke to a lady the other day. What's that? Sorry.
I said I hope so.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I spoke to a lady the other day that spoke to me because you told her to speak to me. You know, because she really values your opinion. And I think that it's very, very important. So, Stefan, do you want to give us some info on something? I think you were going to tell us a little bit about. Let me see. Yeah, IT and social selling, right?
Yes. Well, Stefan's in the perfect position to educate us a little bit for a couple minutes here on what's available in social selling. That, like, I know when he showed me, I mean, we talked for 3 hours the first time we met, and it was like, mind blown. Right? And he's been kind and said, I'm mature enough to understand this, right, as far as the technology and that. But tell us, Stefan, a little bit about how social selling it can be conducted today.
Okay, so there are plenty of things to do with social selling, because in addition of being authentic, nice things to do and cool activities, people are always wondering, with what tool do I do that? So a part of social media influencers, authors, entrepreneurs, they are using blogging, for example, or they are using live broadcast. I had a question from the community, my BB TV relates to a social media platform that appeared 2 years ago, called BB. That's why it's that community is so-called My BB TV, and that's the first social media platform dealing with affinity networks that are specializing successful personal brand. Why? Because first, the 12 million users over the last 24 months, which is huge, with 43 monthly active users. When you think about that, that's twice as LinkedIn is active. It's a bit amazing, but actually, if you are related to like-minded people, you have affinities with them. First, for your quality content, which is in fact your brain juice, you're pouring out yourself, and then you write down that digitally and you share with the community. It's all about community. It could be LinkedIn groups, it could be Facebook groups or pages, it could be also BB blog. You can use Medium and other things. You can write for the Huffington Post or other Inc, CEO.com, etc., etc., and then you share a content. The content is not always about yourself, but about a topic you relate to. Of course, when you're writing about that, right, you develop your writing skills. I think personal branding has a lot to do about wording. So wording is a science. You need to work with brand marketers to do that. You can't do that alone. Why? Because if you do that alone, it's a sales pitch. I am this, I am that. In fact, it is not. It is in the eye of your like-minded people community that lays the truth of yourself. You can, of course, you have an idea of who you are, who you want to be, but the best starting point to start with is to hire a specialist to help you do that exercise. I would give an example. If you're doing yoga, you're number one. Do you open the yoga book and you start doing your exercise and movements and postures? Or do you hire a yoga teacher? That's the same for Tai Chi. That's the same for tennis. That's the same for any, even swimming pool. You need to have a teacher watching your moves, etc., etc. Personal branding is not an exception. When you're into personal branding, you have to relate to a professional to help you to understand what you do, who you are, and what you want to do, where you want to be. So you're doing that famous wording exercise, and then you have a better perception of yourself, and you start to be. I'm not saying acting authentic, because acting authentic would be staged, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
You start to be
Of
authentic.
course.
You start to be the lion or the lioness you have always wanted to be, being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you are yourself, you don't think about being yourself. You're just acting. And this is when personal branding happens. Because when you're doing, acting, reacting, performing without thinking, because it's just yourself and you feel good with it, so it does good to oneself, people are witnessing that. And you don't even have the conscience that actually it is happening. Why? A lion doesn't know he's a lion. He's just a lion. That's the same for lioness. An influencer doesn't know that he's an influencer because he have a 1 million follower base, but they are not active, they are not buying, they are not behaving nor reacting. They are not perceiving external perceptual attribute of your actions. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. I had that question from Bangkok, Thailand, from a nonprofit organization called Conservation Community Project. They were asking if a personal branding was applying to NGOs. Well, I think
Jason
yes.
answered that.
Jason answered
that.
Okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
I actually want to expand on that question very briefly because I know we haven't got a huge amount of time. But actually, personal branding goes all the way from university students, from actually before you go to university, because to get into a good university, you need to personally brand yourself. Yeah, because people need to understand about you. They need to understand that you have certain attributes. You perhaps, you're not going to get into a top university if you don't craft who you are, right? Like my dad used to work with students who wanted to go to MIT from England, so he would interview these young people, and some of them were like, well, how do I get in? I'm not sure I'm going to make it. And he's like, well, firstly, you need to create some complexity, be interesting. Yeah. If you're boring, right, and you don't have any complexity and nothing to talk about or nothing, no skills, no sports, no hobbies, right, no languages, you're not learning any languages, you're boring. Like, you need to do stuff. Yeah. And this goes all the way through your career, all the way to people who want to reinvent themselves and do something else when they're retired or they might go back to work. Yeah. So it's anybody, but I think NGOs are very important because trust is very important, especially if they're fundraising, right?
Yeah, absolutely. People, and you've seen, I'm sure, these infographics of where the money goes to various causes, right? Yeah. And some president of an organization is taking home $1 zillion, and the guy who runs the Salvation Army is taking nothing, basically, right? And so okay. Right. So trust is critical. And that is part of, again, personal branding. It's the choices that have been made.
I agree. Thank you so much for coming along, guys. It's been a bit longer than expected, I'm afraid. I'm going to hold my hands up. Really appreciate everyone who's tuned in to this and shared it as well. And if you did enjoy what we shared and you believe one or more of us may be able to help you, then please feel free to reach out to either any one of us, and please also take the next step right now and go and fill in the quick questionnaire so we can discover what you'd like to learn about next, and we'd really appreciate that. So there'll be a link to the form that we will post at the end of the show. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Stefan, as well, for joining us, and Jason.
I will insert the link here about the webinar, so you can find out in the comments section. And for those that want to follow up with Nathaniel Scholar, Jason Canigan, I will put in the comment sections as well all the Facebook handles, websites as well, for the Closing Engine with Jason Canigan and Instant Impact with Nathaniel Scholar. I also recommend for everybody that wants to practice their own skills about personal branding, understanding what is an affinity networking community. I would recommend them to connect on bb.com. I have inserted a slide here about what BB is and what BB can do for them. I think we were gonna try to have whether brand ambassadors from that fantastic community to talk about more personal branding in depth tools. Of course, if people want to join in some masterclasses and webinars, we're gonna put on Facebook all the links that are necessary to click on and then book a seat. You can book appointments with Nathaniel C. Schooler and Jason Canigan on their website, and have a break the ice session with them to understand what it is. In some other time, we will have the opportunity to discover more IT technology about social selling. I think it's been dense today in terms of topics and a few interactions with some influencers here in the community, and I will be happy again to talk again with our friend Jason Canigan. I think he's gonna be back in a few seconds with us. Yeah, Jason. And,
it's me.
yeah. So that would be all for today. As I am saying, do not hesitate to like the show, share the show, and there is the Facebook event page on Nathaniel C. Schooler Facebook page, the professional one. So if you want to register for the next dates, I think this one was the first free webinar of a series of how many? 12, 13? Nathaniel?
12.
12. Okay, so people,
Yeah.
you missed this one live, don't worry. Every Friday, you're going to have one like this one with new guests and some more
questions and
specific
answers.
topics.
Yeah.
So
Thank
guys,
you.
Thank you for your time today and looking forward.
Thanks, Jason.
And thank you guys.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, Stefan.